Howdy, folks, and welcome back. Hope you're all blessed and doing okay out there. Well, for today's video, I present to you All Aboard. Now, this book is titled The Story of Joshua Lionel Cowan and His Lionel Train Company, but I'm calling it All Aboard, The History of Lionel Trains. This will be a narrative of the Lionel Train Company, how they got started, and kind of what they're doing today. At the time this video is being made, Lionel Trains have been around for 124 years. That's a long time for a company to survive. Lionel is the oldest maker of trains in America, but not the world. The oldest maker is Markland. Now, they've been in business since just after the Civil War. Anyway, let's take a look and hear a story of the history of Lionel Trains. So, in the early 1900s, or late 1890s, a man named Joshua Lionel Cowan decided to start making and inventing and selling products. He called them electric novelties. He made a dry cell battery for flashballs for cameras, and he made an electric fan, buying your ticket. Well, the fan worked during the summer, but not during the winter. He later admitted that although all those fans spun very quickly, they produced no breeze. What a ripoff. In the station. So he took the electric fan and took one of his father's cigar boxes, put wheels on it, and labeled it the Electric Express. Now, guys might be thinking, that was like the first, toy train made for kids. Not exactly. This was right here. Toy trains back then were simply floor toys made of wood that were lithographed for children to play with, and the sounds were up to the child's imagination. Some of the other early trains included trains that were powered by alcohol that ran around the Christmas tree. Those were fun to play with, but not when they came off the tracks. You can imagine what happened next. And there's a picture of the Golden Spike Ceremony that took place in 1869 in Promontory Summit, Utah. Joshua Cowan was a tinkerer. He attended good schools, but he didn't really want to care, focused on what was in the classroom. He did also attend Columbia University. There's another toy train right there. Pretty cool. Cowan's boyhood trains. He did have trains as a kid, it looks like. Yeah, there he is right there. Now, he came up with the company idea name for Lionel, and they asked, why'd you call it that? Well, he replied with his dry wit, I had to call it something. Supposedly, there he is, Lionel was a bit of a jokester and a very nice, bright young man. Pulling out. There's the fan he made right there. It was tiny, but didn't do really very much. And there's the Electric Express. The first stop for this little car was Ingersoll Ram's toy store. Robert Ingersoll, the proprietor, hoped the electric vehicle would bring life to the window and sales to the store. The problem is, though, nobody wanted what was on the shelf. They wanted the train running around. It sold for $6, the whole set, a premium price back in those days. MTH, Lionel Corporate Template, made reproductions of these for the longest time. I want one myself. Now here's some more early trains. This is part of his electric novelties run he came out with. There's a steam engine and a little trolley car. Now, Lionel was not the only company making trains back then. You had Ives, Voltamp Electric, Howard Lamp, and a few others. I can't name all of them because I can't remember. That was Lionel's first trolley right there. Tiny, but cool, and that's one of their first accessories, a suspension bridge. There's some of Lionel's early track design right there. It's much wider than today's toy train track that we know. There's a dry cell battery he made. And there's some add-ons. This was one of his earliest trains, the B&O number 5, based off of a locomotive that hauled trains to the Baltimore, Ohio tunnels. You could get a crane car to go with it, along with a, well, boxcar with bars in it for some reason. Not many of these trains survived, so anybody who has them is very lucky. The Lionel Company had a great beginning. It was booming, and it brought something new to the world that nobody had seen before. And this was before, television and radio became a thing. You had wax cylinders back in those days. Ives pioneers toy trains. This is how Ives got started. The Ives Company lasted for a long time, but they didn't last forever. They went out of business because Mr. Ives didn't repair trains. He sent new trains to people when one broke. I think he was a little too nice in that sense. But it lives on as a legendary company. Now, here's a fact a lot of you may not know, but some of your favorite H-O-Gauge companies started off making O-Gauge products, including, believe it or not, Intermountain and Athearn. Marx came and went. K-Line came and went. Atlas is still around. Williams is still around, sort of. Weaver came and went. And so did K-Line. There's a pay-as-you-enter trolley right there. Pretty cool looking. Now, I would go into every single detail about this company, but I can't remember every little thing. There's a program that was made to go with this book, that was based on this book, called History of Lionel Trains. It's a great program. Picking up speed, so things are getting better and faster for the company, it looks like. They made slot cars back then, and they made them again later on. Lionel tried other things besides making trains. They made fishing reels, they made motorboats, they made all kinds of weird contraptions, but nothing really did as well or held up as the trains. It didn't really catch on. That's Lionel Cowan's son, Larry Cowan. He would appear on all the boxes during the early days. Here are the different gauges that were made back in those days. We have, that's 2.5 gauge, standard gauge, O gauge, S gauge, and HO gauge. These are all the sizes that Lionel Trains made. Now today, Lionel owns American Flyer, and they're making HO gauge trains, but they are meh, I am sorry to say. I do believe that's a Lionel factory right there. This was when things were still made in America and not China, so it was good. That is Lionel's first trains he ever made, a little steam engine he built for his friends. The whole contraption blew up. During the war, Lionel made this little army train that came with 2 armored cars and a little tank engine. MTS would reproduce that many years later. It's pretty cute looking. They tried making sailboats and racing boats. Again, it didn't work out very well. Now there's one of my favorite engines right there. The Pullman Deluxe, that's what that is. I love that. The biggest train set Lionel would make would be the State set. And that's it right there. 9 feet long, a big train. So this is showing some of the early years of operations. Tin plate was the first metal to be used to manufacture trains in miniature in the standard gauge and the O gauge market. But in fact, standard gauge wasn't standard at all. It was big, like G gauge. These trains were amazing, and they could delight anybody. You could accessorize with them, make them come to life. The kids got involved, even the dog got involved. Heck, it was a family affair back in those days. Here's some of the early accessories. You have the power station, the Heligate bridge, different street lights, and crossing assemblies. Pretty cool. There's an early train table right there and some of the homes you could have gotten. Lionel electric trains indeed. That is the biggest steam engine that Lionel made back then and still is to this day in a way. But the big boy's probably just a bit longer. There's the tariff station, and there's the Blue Comet, one of the most beautiful trains ever made. During the Great Depression, Lionel almost lost everything. A lot of people did. Lionel went into receivership. They made one final line. Their last had not been for this, the Mickey Mouse hand car. It saved Lionel. Sold for $1, and they sold about 35,000. They were back in business shortly after. Some other things in here. Let's see, we got a turntable with a floodlight tower. There's a crossing, one of the airplanes, and they even made a stove. How about that? Here's some of the streamliners that Lionel produced. The Hiawatha, the M10000, and the 1700 Lionel Jr. In 1937, despite the trend in streamlining, Lionel defied the odds and came up with this beautiful model of the Scale Hudson, finely detailed in every way. It was the most detailed locomotive they made at the time. However, they were 3 rivets off. A model counted the rivets on the tender. They were supposed to equal the same amount as the real-life prototype. Lionel incredulously insisted on a recount. It turns out the modeler was right. The real Hudson tender had 1,402. Lionel's 1,399. Lionel refused to make a single change to his masterpiece. And you know what? I can live with that. It looks fine the way it is. Here's some of the early accessories that operated, including the Bastille Bridge and the Gateman. Full steam ahead. So they're doing okay. They're booming. Everything is going great. Even trains you could build yourself were produced. When you build a layout, you're learning about carpentry, landscaping, and electricity. Different train signals right there tell you different things on the railway. Semaphores, upper and lower quadrant. And this is kind of what we use today. There's one of the early Lionel transformers right there. Cowan on color. I can't find a single taped interview with Joshua Cowan. Not on TV, not on radio, nothing. If anybody knows where I can find one, please tell me. I would love to see someone talk to Mr. Cowan himself. Yep, there's one of the train kits you had to assemble. Wouldn't mind having one of those myself to put together. It looks like fun, actually. They made all kinds of cool things back in those days. Before the war, homes were big, so, well, trains were big. There's some of the early houses in miniature you could have gotten right there. These are different bridges, and this right here shows you like the different sizes you could have gotten. A tree that grows trains. Now that's a dream come true for any rail fan. Gotta cut my fan on, guys. I'm getting kind of toasty in here. Lionel's Silver Jubilee. Very interesting it is. There's the stage set. Man, that thing is huge. I'm a little over 6 feet tall. So yeah, it's a lot longer than my height, that's for certain. Everybody was playing with trains back then. Even the railroaders loved seeing Lionel trains run around, carrying their road names. And back then, I think it was a lot easier to make these products than it is now. Now here's a huge handful of their accessories. Let's see if I can point them out without having to get too close. There's the gang car. There's the Iceman. Can't tell what that is. A cop and hobo car. An ambulance work van, it looks like. I'm not sure what that is. That car unloads barrels. That's a firefighting bumper car. A firefighting car with a ladder on it. There's a ballast tampering car. A car with the gateman goes up and down. That's the switch tower. A radar car. A man that throws out a package, and this one delivers mail. Pretty cool. Why can't they do this with HO gauge and make the trains more interactive? The catalogs, the magazines, the publications really got your attention back in those days, and it really did work. There's more of the factory right there, as you guys can see. Everybody was in the trains. Everybody had a good time with them. This was the Prohibition era, too. The 1920s was an interesting time to be alive. I've seen pictures of people playing with trains back in the 50s and the 60s, and I wonder, why can't we have trains like that today that are simple and affordable? Nobody makes them this cheap anymore. And there's a kiddie steam engine there. This is a pretty cool display right here. I saw a program with the guy who has it, but he's missing the engineer that's peering over the top. Oh, oiling the locomotive, just like the real thing. Do not put oil inside your locomotive that comes from a real locomotive. They use a different kind of lubrication. Lionel was also known for their showroom layouts. Their most famous one was the 1949 showroom layout, because probably it was their biggest. But I wouldn't give to have one for myself. These are things that didn't quite catch on or make it to the catalogs, but they were concept ideas, like this bump-and-go rocket launching car right here, or this car with some giraffes in it. They did make a car eventually with giraffes that bob up and down, but that one was a failure, unfortunately. Sidetracked. Yeah, they did get sidetracked for a while there with some things, but they did try. On the back burner. So the 1940s and 30s, things were here and there. The Great Depression was going on, but kind of winding down. Although people didn't want to take the train anymore. They wanted to fly. Sadly, airplanes came into play along with automobiles, and people wanted to go places faster and quicker instead of slowing down and seeing the scenery. So Lionel tried to keep up with the trend things. Like I said, they made power boats like these that could race around. They made airplanes. They made slot cars. Okay, there's some of the same streamliners that you saw earlier, but this one has a few more. There's the Milwaukee Roads Hiawatha, the Zephyr, the M2000 again, and I think that's the city of Solima right there. Lionel goes streamlined. When the rails were streamlining, so were the model train companies. Lionel made this train, the M2000, about the same time the real one did, along with the Hiawatha. They beat their competitors and got the trains in the stores first. Oh, there's one right there. That's the Commodore Vanderbilt, another famous streamliner that they produced. There's the Mickey Mouse handcar and some Disney trains they made. There's a handcar with Delta Completo on it. Selling Lionel. Well, the company did do a few things that were kind of, here and there, but they did try. Blowing the whistle, Cowan and the whistle. Lionel had all kinds of cool sound ideas for their trains. Some were weird, and some worked. The whistle, though, was very successful. There's a few more hand cards. You got Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. A very neat accessory, the operating gateman. One of my favorites, actually. There's an airplane that they made. They just made all kinds of stuff, like I said. Some of it was cool and interesting, but some of it didn't quite work. There's the Hudson again in better detail. Realism. Indeed, it was realistic looking. It was just a really cool thing they made. Cowan, as remembered by. He did try to hold on as long as he could, but he retired sometime, I think, back in the 50s. Railroading at remote control. So one thing Lionel did give you was remote control accessories. You could uncouple cars, you could blow the whistle, you could operate cranes and other things. During the war, There was no metal used to make trains. Kids had to turn their metal to help us fight wars. So Lionel came out with this, what was known as the fiberboard train, which has become commonly called the paper train. He said, well, boys ought to have some train to play with during the war. That is, if your father could figure out how to assemble 250 different train parts with hundreds of slots and tabs into something that resembled a toy train. Very few of these actually survive today. Yep, there's that kid turning in his trains to help fight the war. Well, when the war came to an end, things got better. Lionel had trains in time for Christmas, but nothing was really announced except the realistic-looking knuckle coupler, which had to wait till VJ Day for its review. Catalog years. This was one of their best times. I think the golden age for Lionel is like right after World War II, when they came out with all their new trains and accessories. Now this insert, I think it's from the 1952 catalog, showing us some of their best trains ever made, including that one, which you'll hear about a bit later. This book is not in good condition. I'm sorry, guys. It's been through the ringer a couple of times. This is the Santa Fe Super Chief. When Lionel made this, it became their best-selling train, and the original ran for 18 years. Also came in the colors of the New York Central, which ran for 8 years. Today, kids still want to have a Santa Fe train set, just like this. But they don't make the F3 anymore like you see here. They make the FT instead. This pages are cool. This one shows us some of their accessories, and there's a Texas Special freight train right there. Very nice. There's the coal dump, and there's a switch right there. And this stuff is amazing. The operating milk car was pretty fun. So was the horse car and corral, but they barely worked, unfortunately. That is the biggest transformer they made. That is the 4ZW. You could run 4 trains at once with the thing, and you still can today. Pretty cool. This was a failure. This is the girls' train that Lionel tried to produce to get females and girls involved in the hobby. Unfortunately, it was a flop, because one girl said, if I want a train, I want something that looks realistic, not the silly pink-looking Easter egg painted train set. Not many were made today. It's a hot collector's item. A pink train. Lionel introduced some other cool things. This is the floodlight tower. Now that's the rotary beacon, I think. That's a station where you can make announcements with. There is the newsstand. And this is the 686 20-wheeler Pennsylvania turbine they came out with. There have been several variants of this made over the years. And there is the GG1. Beautiful locomotive altogether. Right on schedule. And they were. But like I said, no one cared to take a look at the future when America had become airborne. So things were kind of here and there during this time period for Lionel and the rest of the country, and in fact the railroads. Everybody was not sure what was going to happen next, because things were up in some places and down in others, just like, stocks and investments in the stock market. But where's the water? So Lionel came out with a water tower that had an operating spout, but he said, where's the water? So what they did was they added a pump, pardon me, and there's actually a wall behind where the water is, and the water is sucked in to a reservoir under the roof, and it looks like it's being put into the tender. It's a pretty cool illusion. And magically refills itself. Now back then you had to put pellets into your smokestack. Today you use liquid. There's the turbine right there. Although the real-life prototype was not very successful, the models that have been made by Lionel and Broadway Limited Imports over the years have been just wonderful. And, oh yeah, MTH and Williams also made this. Father's Day. There you go. Highway safety. You have to have that. There's some other crane cars. There's the burrow crane and a regular crane, and these were operational. Just cool toys altogether. Ah, there's a close-up of the mill car. A fun thing to play with. And there's a construction kit right there. Very nice. Lionel once said, "Children want movement and action. They don't want to just watch a train go round and round. A few minutes of that, and the little nippers will wander off and squeeze some toothpaste or set fire to the curtains." Sorry about the stuttering, guys. So as you can see, he delivered the little nippers plenty of action and accessories during the post-war years. Like I said, the Santa Fe became Lionel's best-selling train, and I have one myself in my collection. Haven't ran it in a long time, but it's still pretty cool to have. Yeah, these trains Lionel made, some are now approaching, if not over, 100 years old. It's amazing that they have survived this long. Lionel was not made to be the cheapest product in the market. It's not today and it won't be in the future, but supposedly you get value when you buy a Lionel train. Now here's some more of their accessories. Let's see, we got the barrel loader, a log loader. I think that's a oil derrick there. A trailer loader, coal dump, a log dump, a coal ramp, a coal loader, a forklift platform, and the sawmill. These were just fun to play with. You could spend hours delivering loads to towns and everything else. I think that's the Choo Choo Diner up in Illinois. If you go there, your food is literally delivered by a train. I want to go there someday. Yeah, things were going good during this time. And things were booming. But it was not to last. Off the track. This was Lionel's last attempt at having a boom year. They tried to branch out to make things like a 3D camera, which didn't quite catch on very well. There is an air-cool accessory, the culvert loader, and the culvert unloading station. Cowan, as remembered by, again, people met him and remembered him. That's a good thing. Hillside, Irvington, next right. Yeah, they really did try everything. Trains for the Pope. I guess the Pope likes trains. Certain changes came to the world that I don't think Joshua Lionel was too happy about, nor was the company. Slot cars came into play, and yeah, they tried to make those, and again, they were not quite successful. Lionel eventually would make HO gauge trains, but unfortunately they were too late to catch their competitors, like a lot of other companies were at the beginning with Lionel, and with the S gauge trains as well. They started making HO gauge in the early 2000s, and now for some reason they're trying it again. Now this is a cool picture right there. A Norfolk and Western J model pulling the real thing. I always find these kind of funny. Look to the skies. So during the space race, kids wanted to play with space toys, so Lionel made a line of space and military vehicles. Some were actually pretty cool. Cowan breaks the news. I bet he did more than once. They made a helicopter car that could launch a helicopter into the air, and supposedly it was supposed to go up, fly in a circle, and land back on the flat car. It never worked. At age 88 in the 1960s, Joshua Cowan passed away. His son Larry passed away from a heart attack 5 years later at the age of 63. Lionel gave up its electric trains and retired. And he is remembered as a man who was a pioneer in bringing something new to the world that was unique and had not been seen before. He really did the best he could and held in there as long as he could. But as we all know, nothing lasts forever. In the roundhouse. So Lionel was bought and owned by General Mills for a little while, the breakfast cereal company. They then became a part of Model Products Corporation, or MPC, which some people refer to as the dark ages of Lionel. It's not all bad. MPC gave us some cool stuff, some pretty nice locomotives and cars and everything else, but some of it was also junk, unfortunately. There was bad and good in MPC. And there's the index. I don't know how many of you actually stay for the index, but go for it. There's their Union Pacific set. Notice their 1950s set. So, what is Lionel up to today? Well, after the 1970s, Lionel started putting sound into their locomotives and cars to make them more realistic and more digital. They came up with all kinds of new trains and locomotives and accessories. In the 1990s, they developed what became known as TMCC, or Trainmaster Command Control, using digital sounds, but the trains could not be controlled with remote control around the layout. Fast forward, another system called Legacy came out. In 2000, for their 100th anniversary, Lionel brought back some classics and a special gold Hudson made for just the event. Richard Kuhn, a millionaire in the shop mill industry, bought and owns Lionel for a number of years. Today, Lionel still makes trains. They still make catalogs. Their stuff is here and there, and it is expensive as you can all get out with. But it is a good company. It's a good way to start people into the hobby of trains. You can get someone an O-gauge starter set. That's simple. It's not as prototypical or realistic as the big lines are, but it's a good start. Another line that Lionel came out with is the Vision line, which pulls out all the stops and makes the trains way more realistic, way more detailed, and way more cool, and way more expensive. But yeah, Lionel's still around, and hopefully they'll be here for many years to come. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed that video, so until next time, please like, share, subscribe, and comment, and remember, God loves all of us. Happy rails guys, see y'all next time.